Dobar dan svima. Moje ime je Aleksandra i u ime tima Naučno-tehnološkog parka Niš želim vam dobrodošlicu na 22. izdanje Kreativnog utorka, koji ovog puta organizujemo u ovom hibridnom formatu i tako ga zovemo Special Edition. Drago nam je da smo u ovim ograničenim uslovima uspeli da okupimo ovaj simboličan broj ljudi prisutnih u konferencijskom centru Naučno-tehnološkog parka Niš. Svi zainteresovani takođe ovo predavanje mogu da prate uživo i preko našeg YouTube kanala, gde je takođe omogućeno postavljanje pitanja na koje želite da dobijete na kraju predavanja odgovore od naših predavača. Danas imamo jedno zanimljivo gostujuće predavanje na temu tehnološkog menadžmenta i menadžmenta inovacija, jer smo smatrali da je u vremenu koje se naravno brzo i intenzivno menja, potrebno sagledati celokupan svet i privredu u jednom širom aspektu, kroz jednu širu priču i kroz nekoliko perspektiva, jer samo tako možemo ispratiti trendovi tehnologije koje se brzinom svetlosti i menjaju, nastaju i nestaju svuda oko nas. Kako hendlovati te tehnologije pod znacima navoda, menadžment i financije povezane sa inovacijama, saznaćemo od naših današnjih predavača koji u ovim oblastima imaju itekako dovoljno iskustva. Ono što je zanimljivo je to da su na severu Evrope, tačnije u Švedskoj, prepoznate već ove potrebe i da je industrijski menadžment i menadžment inovacija već sagledan kao studijski program budućnosti i realizuje se u saradnji sa lokalnom privredom, a njegova popularnost proporcionalno raste i među studentima. Veliko nam je zadovoljstvo da na ovu temu kao predavači imamo jedinstvenu priliku, sem ako ne studiramo negde u Švedskoj, da čujemo doktora Majka Danilovića, profesora industrijskog menadžmenta na Halmstad univerzitetu sa decenijskim iskustvom u toj oblasti. Profesor Danilović je takođe sprovodio mnoge industrijske i poslovne projekte kada je reč o treningu, edukaciji, inovativnom biznis modelu, product developmentu, upravljanju organizacije velikih i kompleksnih sistema, a poslednjih godina se bavi temom elektrifikacije saobraćaja, posebno u saradnji sa Kinom. Profesor Danilović će sa vama svoje iskustvo podeliti na engleskom jeziku, tako da možete u potpunosti da se osjećate kao da ste u nekom amfiteatru na Halmstadu, to jest njihovom univerzitetu. So, I think that this introduction wasn't too long. Professor Danilović, I invite you to share with us your significant experience.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, now you're with me. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I have to say that I've never been to Niš before. This is the first time I'm in Niš, and what I see is wonderful. I enjoy the city part that I've experienced, but the most important is I like the hospitality of the people that I met for 2 days now, and I have 2 days to go. So the starting point in Niš is wonderful, and it will be ending well. So the purpose for my visit to Niš is to actually initiate a collaboration in the electrification of transportation system, which will be the main topic of this speech, and we are trying to establish a collaboration between Sweden, Serbia and China in the electrification of transportation. So this is the main discussion and will be also main topic of my speech. Already now, in the first picture, you understand that this is English and Chinese. If you want to work in Chinese, with Chinese somewhere, everything has to be in Chinese and English for many different reasons. Chinese cannot express your name unless they see the characters. So in Chinese, my name is Maiko. That I cannot tell you, but it is Maiko. So this is a way to show that working in international context requires understanding of cultural differences, languages, and so on. So I've been working in China for 8 years, forth and back, and doing projects and so on with the Chinese. So we will try to explain what's going on and impact of that. Personally, I'm professor of industrial management, Halmstad University, southwest part of Sweden. I have been working for Linköping University, 86 to 2000, and Jönköping International Business School, and then I'm at Halmstad University for a number of years, 11 years now. I've been also visiting professor in South Africa 2 times, and I work in China since 2011. and all my research is about collaboration with industry. My research is about innovation, technology management, technology-oriented, but always in different collaborations with industry. This is how we work, develop knowledge about what is going on, and also working in implementing research in practice. And through this kind of interaction with practice, you learn a lot, much more than behind the desktop. So this is a little bit of my background. And I start discussing a little bit of innovation, move to the higher level of abstraction, what this means, and the implications of what is happening in the world when it comes to innovation in this area. And then I'm going more concretely into what it means for electrification of transportation. We published a couple of weeks ago a report, the first report of the project we are running, this kind of battery swapping. I will use that illustration of what is going on and this kind of combination of technology and business model innovation and what impact that has on the society. But I start with this kind of innovation. What is innovation? Well, innovation is a process of discovering needs, problems, exploring needs, problems, developing solutions, creating inventions. But invention is not innovation. Quite many people think invention is innovation. It's not. We mix things up. Innovation is when you can take the process of discovery through invention all the way to innovation. It means putting it in practice, putting it in the society, creating value to the society, and in the business situation, creating value in terms of money making. Most of the ideas don't go all the way. Most of the ideas stop somewhere on the way, because this is the difficult one. Moving from the idea, developing many times products, services, technologies, and moving it to this kind of commercial success, implementation, value creation. This is the difficult one. And in other terms, we talk about exploration, exploring the new thing. And then we talk about exploitation, which means actually moving it to the society and money making. And that is where company come into the picture. So this is the complicated, moving it all the way. Another way to explain it is that you can see innovation as a coin with two sides. One is technology, products. The other one is commercialization, money making. If you see it that way, a coin needs both sides. It's not good enough with one side. And this is the problem, because many engineers think innovation is technology, and they focus on technology, and they think once we have made some great technological success, then we have done innovation. We are not. At best, we have created an invention. Now the hard labor starts moving invention into innovation, and that is the complicated one. I've been working for 35, 40 years with industry in many projects. Every time I ask a company, and I mean every time, it doesn't matter if Sweden, South Africa, Germany or China, what are the main challenges? None of them ever tell me technology. Believe me or not, technology, they fix it. Somehow they fix it. They always find some clever people with new ideas and solve the problem. But what is the main problem is to explore the market, understand the customers, and find way to commercialize their ideas. That is what is the complicated one. That is where most of the companies fail. And those companies that realize the potential of technologies and put it into business practice and go into the market, they make success. And the best idea I can demonstrate with is this, right? This iPhone. Everybody knew about iPhone. Ericsson did, Motorola did, Nokia did. Everybody, Microsoft, no. Everybody was laughing at Apple when they discovered it the first time. You remember that? They were laughing. Ha, 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 ha. Nobody's laughing anymore, because Ericsson is gone, Nokia is gone, Motorola is gone, and everybody knows that this product can be made by anybody in the world. Today, everybody can make hardware copy of iPhone, right? Do you agree? You can buy it on the stock market. You can compone your own hardware. That is not the difficult one. The difficult one is that Apple is taking care of about 90% of the money of the telephone market with only about 20% of the market share. Why? Because of the business model of iPhone. And I will demonstrate the business model not of iPhone, but of the battery swapping and how that can be a game changer when you understand the combination of technology and business model innovation. So this is what innovation is about, putting it on the market, and every time we see innovation, we see a new business model evolving. This is interesting. Keep that in mind. Coin. Now, we have seen over the time many of these kind of revolutions taking place. Historically, we can talk about mechanical energy, coal, petroleum. We have different, over the years, we have seen different energy sources coming. They are creating different kind of transportation system, different technologies, and this is example of this kind of revolutionary approach. Modern industrialization started with steam engine. Then they continue with burning petrol. That is how it started. And when we look into the Chinese context, Chinese started to, in the 60s, 70s, develop cars, trucks, buses, and they realized quite soon that they could not easily catch up with the Western technologies when it comes to vehicles, because Western companies in the West had been doing vehicles for hundreds of years, and they were also having thousands of patents around key technologies. So Chinese couldn't grasp the modern vehicle transportation technologies. They realized that. It was hard labor. So when the electrification started, they say, okay, we cannot do this, but we can do that. And this is something interesting to see, because quite often in the emerging economies, what we see is that emerging economies are jumping over the old technologies and grasping the new one, and by doing so, taking a leap into the next generation of technologies. What we are now talking about is that actually the electrification and the entrance of renewable energy altogether is forming a new kind of revolution that we are facing. Quite many companies are reluctant to accept the electrification, say, take it easy, this will bypass, something new is coming over or coming back. No, it's not. Because this transformation that we see, renewable energy, moving away from fossil, electrification is a giant step of the society. Those that don't understand that, I'm sorry to say, they will be behind, left behind. Do I make it clear? You don't need to believe me, but this is a revolutionary step we are facing. Those companies that cannot grasp electrification, they will be lost, like iPhone. So make a guess, who is leading the industrialization of electrical vehicles today in the world? Can anybody make a guess? No. I don't hear. Any better guess? Tesla? Yes. China. How many of you know that China has more than 100 electrical car brands on the market now? How many know that more than 50% of the electrical cars being sold in the world are sold in China? Not many. But that is reality. Many people don't know that, but that is reality. So we are facing huge transformation and moving from mechanical technology to mechanical electric, and now electric to mechanical. This is steps that we see, but this is not coming to an end. We can already foresee future revolutions of energy and technology transformation. And you can see countries leading those kind of transformation. And what you can see is that China is coming on the table and taking a lead in this kind of electrification, renewable energy. And China is also moving ahead. So you can understand what is going on in between those two countries nowadays and why there are tensions going on. And this is about who is taking the lead in this kind of development. So I give you the big picture to understand that what we are discussing is part of a huge transformation that we are facing. We're living middle of this kind of transformation. So let's focus on the electrification. The total number of cars in the world is quite high, almost 1.4 billion of cars all over the world. The total global stock of electrical vehicles was only 7.2 million in 2019. Almost 50% was in China.
That number is very small considering the whole amount of cars. Global electric vehicles sales pass 2 million in 2020. That is smaller numbers, but this is going to grow exponentially in the year to come. Electrification is coming. More and more companies realize and are moving to electrical cars. Estimations are saying that by 2030 there will be 250 million electrical cars on the market. Recently, CEO of Volvo say we have our first electric car. First. In 2030, all Volvo cars will be electric. 2030. How many Chinese electrical cars did I mention they had today? Anybody remember the number? More than 100 today. Do you see my point? Already today. So this is about speed. Speed of the development of grasping the technology and moving forward. If we look on the global picture of industry, automotive industry, we can see a number of patterns. One pattern is that if we see the countries like Norway, Iceland, Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, Canada, what these countries represent is high proportion of electrical vehicle in their market, but those countries don't have manufacturing of electric cars. They're importing. The other part of the diagram shows that in countries like Germany and China, they have the whole value chain. They're developing components, systems, and the total cars integration. And who is leading this development is the Chinese. And this is important. Either you're a buyer or you're a producer. We buy cars, but they are producing. And there is where power is. Those that can develop technologies, utilize it, manufacture cars, and then there are those that can buy it. Do I make it clear, guys? This is one reason why the power of electrification is in this part of the world. And of course, automotive industry play a very, very important role in the German industrial context. That is why, of course, industry is hesitating, because this is a huge transformation going on. So let's have the big picture. If we look on the Chinese context, we can see that sales of electrical cars is dominated in China by Tesla. But the rest are Chinese brands. These kind of BMW and or Volkswagen Passat, they are hybrid cars. Now, hybrid cars are out of interest in the Chinese context. They are not too interesting of hybrid cars. They go for electric. The time is past for hybrids. We're doing research in this area to understand what China is doing, how they're doing, and the conditions for that. We can see Shenzhen as a city of 12 million people just across Hong Kong. They have electrification, the city that is mostly electrified all over the city in the world. They have 21,000 taxis, all electric, 40,000 buses, all electric, trucks, all electric. All electrification of the city is done by cable charging, initiated about 10 to 15 years ago, done a couple of years ago. Nobody has done it. They have done it. Now we are doing study of that. We are also following the next step in the electrification, which is Shanghai, 35 million city. What are they doing that is interesting? They are combining a number of electrification technologies, battery-driven cars, cable charging, battery swapping, I'm coming back to, and hydrogen. Who is leading the development of hydrogen? Japan, Korea, United States. Who is upcoming? China. Hydrogen is on the national strategic list, which means that is the focus of the Chinese development. And Shanghai will be the city integrating all those solutions, all those technologies into a hybrid total city electrification. Now tell me if that is not exciting. So we started a project actually in 2018 together with the Swedish Transportation Agency that is interesting to know what China is doing for the learning, for the knowledge transfer, and to bilateral discussions about electrification. And we did the first study in 2018. In October, we started a new project in which we have this kind of first report that is presented. You can download it. So this research project we are running, we have a number of researchers from the Swedish side that are doing the work. And we have, of course, one Chinese lady, Jasmine, that is on board working with us. We have a number of Chinese professors, researchers doing this with us, because we need people from both sides to understand what is going on, put things together. And we already have a quite strong footprint in the Chinese context with Chinese institutes, Chinese institutions, and Chinese industry to communicate with and learn from and have a dialogue with. So we have established a strong footprint already in China, and we are moving it forward to the Swedish context and hopefully European Serbian context as well. Now, if you think electrical vehicles, all of them have batteries of different kind. I'm not talking about hybrid cars. That is, from my point of view, history, or just a temporary solution. The electrical car is what we are moving to. Electrical car need battery of different size, and then depending on the energy storage, you can have big battery, small battery, or hydrogen, but you have battery. Then, when it comes to electrical car and battery, you need to discuss and consider charging electrical vehicles. That can be done in different ways. Either you have this kind of battery swapping, changing the batteries, or you have conductive charging. Conductive charging means cable into the car, or you can have wires in the air and pick the electricity while you drive, like tramps in the city, or rails in the road. This kind of different conductive technologies. Or you can go for inductive charging, which is magnetic transformation of power from one part to another part. There are basically three technologies that we know about charging vehicles. And you have to do it one or the other way. So, our focus right now is battery swapping. I make a guess that nobody in this room has ever heard about battery swapping of cars. Yes. Yes, you have.
Not very much, but I've heard.
You have heard about it. Let me demonstrate how it works. 30-second movie. Piece of cake, right? The battery swapping station looked like a washing machine, car washing. Drive in, you don't need to leave the car. The car is lifted. The robot is taking down the battery of the car, switching, putting new battery to your car, and you go. Within 1 minute, everything is done. Those battery swapping stations can hold between 25 and 30, 40 batteries. The swapping can go on anytime. This is illustration of a car, small car. They have battery swapping for trucks, buses, and so on. Why is this important? Why is this interesting solution? Well, there are many problems associated with charging. First, imagine cable charging. Imagine a large city. Imagine a 10, 12, 20, 30 million city. Imagine how many cars they have. Thousands of cars. Tens of thousands of cars. How many of those people can have cable charging available? Few of them, right? Public parking, limited. That means that most of the people that want to buy an electric car cannot charge it. So this is one of the challenges, charging accessibility. Battery swapping is one of those solutions to the charging. You fill up your petrol like you fill up the battery or fill up the car with petrol. This is the same solution. So this is solving a very big issue. So how fast is the battery swapping moving into the Chinese context? This picture shows you that in 10 years' time, they started to explore the battery swapping. End of last year, end of 2020, they had about 600 battery swapping stations. 600, considering the Chinese size is very small size. We published this paper around 16th of April. We had a press conference, press meeting. We presented this. And at that day, we estimated on the information we had, that China will set up 10,000 battery swapping stations. 10,000. Already the weekend after the press conference, we got new information about this company and this company, this company going for battery swapping. Today, the best information we have is that 25,000 battery swapping will be established by 2025. 25,000 in total. That shows you how rapidly this kind of development is going to take place, and that battery swapping is an emerging technology that will have high impact. And 25,000, considering the Chinese context, is about 200 battery swapping stations in the Swedish context. And this is only the beginning, because the whole number of electrical vehicles is only in the beginning. Now, you can see this from a technical point of view. And of course, this is not being developed overnight. This is a process of 10 years of development. Number of companies have been involved. Number of universities have been involved. This is a technologically high-tech solution, software solution, that can make this possible. But what is maybe even more important is the business model as the consequence of this kind of solution. What does this mean? We know that the price of an electric car is about 40–50% higher than of ordinary car, which means a huge amount of money for people buying an electric car. Then people are hesitating not only to buy the electric car, people are hesitating about charging. Can I have charging when I need to go, wherever I go? That's one hesitation. Another hesitation is, what about the quality of batteries? The price of battery is about 50% of the car. So what is the life cycle of battery? Will it last 5 years, 8 years? How much capacity will go down in 5–10 years' time? Do I need to buy a new battery in 10 years? What is the second-hand value of my car and things like that? You get me? So many hesitations. So people are hesitating to buy electric cars because they are unsecure about the future. We know everything about fossil engine. We know everything about traditional cars because we have had them for 100 years. But electrification is just in the beginning. So what does this mean? Well, this means that this is opening up a new opportunity for a new business model. What does it mean? This means separation of the car from the battery from the charging. This is the new. And I think that this is a kind of revolutionary approach. Because normally when you buy an electric car, you buy a package. You buy the car, the battery, and you have your cable. That's the normal package. But what this offers you is, buy the car. You rent the battery. Charging, you subscribe on charging. What is happening in the world right now, ladies and gentlemen, is that all companies are fighting to have bigger and bigger and bigger battery. Now they're talking about 100 kilowatt hours. They are talking about 150 kilowatt hours. 150 kilowatt hours make car go 1,000 kilometers on one charging. Huge amount of money, heavy car. Everybody go in this direction. More battery, heavier car, longer distance. But we also know that most of the people having an electrical car do not need long distance driving. They're driving in the city, to and from the work, shopping, this kind of short distance driving. Most of the people are satisfied with an electric car that is good for 200, 300, 400 kilometers between charging. But you buy the big one, expensive one. What this solution is offering you is flexibility. You buy the car. You rent the small battery, 70 kilowatt hours, going for 200, 300, 400 kilometers. You start with that. You discover that you need a bigger one. Change the battery to a bigger one for the time you need. Go back when you don't need it. This kind of flexibility. You want to go for holiday, take the big battery. 1 week you pay extra money, then you're back to the normal. You get me? This flexibility you don't have, which means the price for entering the electrical vehicle is much lower, half of the normal price. And then, depending on your needs, you can buy what you need when you need. This is, I think, quite unique solution that can change people's mindset in the electrification, because now you don't need to care about the second-hand value of the car or the quality of the battery, or the appreciation of the battery, because you're safe from that kind of trouble. So now people can buy that. So this is what I think is one of the key points of battery swapping. And of course the speed of battery swapping. Instead of waiting 1 hour for charging, overnight charging, that's easy. But taxi need to stay maybe 1 or 2 times during the day, 3 times during the day, 1 hour every time to charge. With battery swapping, 1 minute, you're on the road again. For them, every hour is money losing. So, if you look on the prices for real, then you can see the impact, the consequences of this application of this. What is the price of the origin of the car? What is the price of the battery and the subscription? So this is very concrete, the consequence of this kind of business model, showing that the price of the car goes down dramatically when you have this kind of separation of the vehicle and the battery and the charging. And who is the first company in the world going in this way? This is the first company, NIO, going for this kind of business model, followed up by another Chinese, Beijing automobile industry. This is the breaking through, nobody's doing it. The normal traditional solution is fully integrated packaged vehicle and battery. So this is, I would say, invention from the beginning. Technological invention, battery swapping, separation. But when they put it into practice, when they make a business situation successful, then the exploitation takes the speed. Then this becomes innovation. They have a problem, they create invention, technologically based invention, then they wrap it in a business model and they move it to innovation. Does it make sense, guys? This is what we talk about, innovation, starting with discovery, innovation, into the innovation phase. Now, this is going to grow. So, to understand what is going on, we have created a model, and we see 4 main dimensions of this kind of development of electrification in society. One thing that is important is, we call it the readiness model. We call it political readiness. That means electrification of a city, of an area, of a country is fundamentally based on, first of all, the political readiness of the city, municipality, country to move to electrification. If the political readiness is low, nothing will happen. So you need to understand the political readiness, the readiness to adopt to the electrification with all what it means, regulations, policy, changing conditions for electrification. That needs to move on. And you need to start with this kind of political readiness to indicate to the society, we want this. This is the desired solution. And you need to have some kind of financial solution to support industry companies moving into electrification to cover the cost that is caused by new technologies before it goes down. Basically, electrical car is much cheaper than conventional car, but not from the beginning. Later on it is cheaper, but this kind of transformation need some kind of oil support from the government. So this is the first dimension, political readiness. And in this case, about 2010, the Chinese government say, yes, this is important, we want to go this way. So you can say political readiness was high. Not really. What happened was that a number of ministries were fighting with each other, arguing which direction to go, how to go, and so on. So for a number of years, they couldn't agree on which way to go, how to make it. But different industries were moving on in developing solutions. And about 2017-18, then they have found standardization solution, agreement on battery swapping. They have developed technology in different demonstration sites. And in 2020, they made a decision that battery swapping is part of the national strategy, technology strategy list. That means the highest possible political acceptance of battery swapping as strategical direction. Then all the other industry really understand that this is the future direction. Let's move. And that is what is happening now. One by one are going in the battery swapping. So this is one key dimension. The second dimension is societal readiness. That means people in society need to say, yes, this is something we want. If people say, we don't want to go for battery swapping, we don't want electrical cars, then it's complicated, and you need to take other measures to make this kind of transformation happen. But in large cities, people are aware of the air pollution. They are aware of bad air. They want blue sky also in Shanghai as well as in Niš. So there is a societal readiness for electrical. But also, where am I going to charge my car? How can I make it? If I buy a new electrical car, where can I charge it? How? When? Who? So you also need to understand the societal readiness. In this case, Chinese love technology. They want to have cars. They want to explore life. And the societal readiness is quite high. But most of them live in apartments with no opportunity for charging. So they want a new kind of solution. And battery swapping is the one. And also, the rich people, they can buy Tesla. But ordinary people cannot afford to buy electrical cars, which is quite expensive. By this kind of separation of the car, battery, charging, then ordinary people can afford an electric car because they buy it and then they rent it and have a subscription depending on their needs. This is appealing to quite a large amount of people. The other one is economical readiness. That means, is it economically feasible to do it? In the beginning, no. Now, yes. They have developed this kind of automatic solutions that swap very quickly. And then technological readiness. 2010, no, this was not really ready. It was experimental, demonstration level. Now it is a large scale. It is functional technology. So you need to understand all those aspects. And of course, there are other aspects. You can add legal aspects, regulatory aspects that also need to be in place to make this possible. But we are using this kind of four the core dimensions that we have seen in our work is important. And by doing so, you can analyze where you're standing, what needs to be done to actually move it. So far I've been talking about battery swapping as a kind of charging facility of the cars. But battery swapping is much more than that. Much more than that. And maybe the other functions of battery swapping is more important than charging facilities. Let me explain. In China, they have 300 million cars, vehicles of different kinds. They have made calculations that if all 300 million vehicles go for electrical vehicles, the energy storage in vehicle will be the same amount as the energy production in China for 1 year. Then you understand the size of energy storage in vehicles. Then you can see the benefit of battery swapping. If we have a number of thousand battery swapping stations that are connected to the grid system, that means that this energy in battery swapping can be sold to industry when they need it. You charge them when the energy is cheap, and suddenly the battery swapping become energy storage and energy balancing facility. Do you see it? Then suddenly you can see new business opportunity with those operating battery swapping. They don't only swap, charge you money for swapping, they can sell energy when it's expensive. They can buy energy when it's low cost. And by so supporting the whole strategic level of the national energy storage, balancing and distribution. So battery swapping has much higher possibilities than we normally think. And that means increase in flexibility, predictability, security, safety and so on. But to make this happen, you need to transform quite a lot of what is existing in the old industry. You need a totally new ecosystem, new actors to enter this industry, to develop technology, to integrate it. You need to change automobiles to make standardized solutions so that the battery swapping can be possible. But automobile industry don't like that. They don't like to give away their standardized solution of vehicle. So what is happening is that this new ecosystem is actually mutually ownership with each other. Battery producers share responsibility for battery swapping with car manufacturers. So they create a new ecosystem with actors, new knowledge being connected, and businesses sharing profits with each other to support each other in this kind of transformation. So you need a new ecosystem, and you need also a new business model to make the value of the battery swapping to the full end to the users. And I'm only talking about small car users. in the situation of trucks and buses, the benefits of battery swapping is even higher, because trucks only can go about 200, 300, 400 kilometers on one charging. Then they need to charge for several hours. So the battery for heavy-duty trucks is more complicated and even more beneficial on battery swapping. Now we have discussions with several Swedish companies, truck and buses, about how that can be utilized in their industry. And this technology we know in the West, but we remember the Israeli Better Place in about 1999 or 2000, that when they started to experiment. And how many of you, ladies and gentlemen, knows that Tesla originally designed the Tesla for battery swapping? Nobody, because they don't tell you that, but it is. Tesla is originally modularly designed, ready for battery swapping. They also had a battery swapping station in operation between San Francisco and Los Angeles. They put one in operation, then they closed it down. They went for cable charging. So there are a lot of things that need to be placed to actually make this happen. What is also interesting to learn from China is that when they were developing this electrification, they were having a very much of a system approach. Not only electrical cars, but this kind of system approach from the energy production to the energy distribution, energy storage, to the energy consumption. And if you don't have the system approach, you have a risk of losing the point. Because what is the point of having electrical cars if you're charging electrical cars with burning coal? You agree? It's meaningless to have electrical cars if coal is the energy source. So you need to see that the green has to be going all through the system. So this kind of system approach. From the Chinese point of view, the battery is the core technology. Battery swapping is the direction, but also the hydrogen is the strategic direction, particularly for heavy-duty vehicle and buses and long distances. So it is a combination of technologies that are complementing each other, not one taking over from the other. This happened in 10 years' time through a number of steps that we have identified, how those industry, how politics, how institutions are collaborating, communicating, disagreeing, finally agreeing, and finally make a decision, and now it moves. And this is what is normal. But you have to have this dialogue between politics and industry to make this transformation possible. And in the Chinese context, also what we see is that this is also reflecting the Chinese way of going for experimental approach. The whole Chinese economical, social development that we can see is experimental in its nature. They're trying, moving, learning, changing. Very different approach than we do in the West. We are analytical. They are experimental. They learn on the way and move. And that is one explanation why the development is of high speed in the Chinese context. They move and they adopt to the experiences. So this is the one, national experimental approach. Inside, showing that existing cable charging need complementary, because it's not enough with cable charging. Maturing battery swapping technology during the 2000. New business players. This means that energy producers, energy distributors, grid system operators, all those actors see new challenges, new opportunities, and entering the solution. And automobile industry are hesitating. They don't want this. But gradually they together develop solutions that are beneficial for both of them. Timing, politics, policy, insights, ecosystem development, symbiotic business model on the national level, and new business model on business level. All those steps were in place to make this happen. Hesitations for moving in this direction, well, high cost initially, lack of standardization, still there, but less than before. One of those operators, they can swap batteries for about 5 to 9 different brands. 5 to 9 different brands can be combined in one swapping station, which open up the opportunities. Fight for control and self-interest. Yeah, nothing special. Everybody's fighting for their own self-interest. But finally, they come together to a solution. Lack of trust, power struggle. This is The Chinese electrical cars from the Shanghai Auto Show now in April 2021. The top one is not Ferrari. This is the Chinese electrical cars. Have you ever seen one? Probably you will. Because 3 of them are going to Europe now. They're entering the European market. You will see them. In the 60s, 70s, if I ask gentlemen that are older than 25, how many of you remember the situation in the world, the West world, when Japanese started to sell cars to Europe in America in the 60s, 70s? You remember what we said? Low quality. 80s, 90s, when Koreans started to sell, you remember what we said? Low quality. The best technical quality is Japanese and Korean cars, better than American and Western Europeans. And what are we saying about Chinese now? Low quality. Third time. Are you joking me? I have reasons to believe that is not the case. Because the major part, almost all electric buses are made by BID in Shenzhen in the world. So be aware of the Chinese cars, and they are beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically my presentation of what we are doing. Electrification of transportation system. This is illustration of battery swapping. That's just one illustration. My main point of battery swapping is the combination of technology and business model innovation. Both are necessary, both are needed. But to make this kind of technological leap in technology, you need a new ecosystem to make the new business model possible. And that is the point. You need to collaborate between technology and business to make it possible. You need political support, you need institutional support, you need to work across boundaries and make success. Business cannot do it on their own. Politics cannot do it on their own. Together, we can do it. And I hope that we together, Sweden, China, and Serbia, can actually create this kind of joint project in the electrification. That is my hope. That's why I'm here. Questions to me?
I will bring you back.
The quality of the sound is not what I can understand. Please.
Why does this business model have monthly subscription instead of pay per battery swap?
How can I tell you? The normal business model is you buy the car, and you buy the battery, and you have your cable charging. That makes price very high. By separating the price between car and battery, the price of the car goes down radically. Makes it easier to buy. Then the battery, you can choose which battery size you want, depending on your need. You don't need to follow the mainstream of bigger and bigger and bigger batteries, because most of the people, they don't need that. So this is the point of separation. You remember iPhone? The most important point in the business model of Apple iPhone is the establishment of iTunes. Do you know what iTunes did? Separation of songs on the CD. Before iTunes, you buy CD, 10, 12 songs. You pay €15 for that, right? But iTunes actually enables you to buy one single song when you want it, need it. They did unbundling of the CD. They did unbundling of songs. And basically what they are doing is unbundling of the integrated car battery infrastructure. That is fundamentally a new way of thinking. And you can say they do what Apple did. But in this context. Was that a reasonable answer to you?
Thank you. And another question. How does China deal with battery waste? Because most of them are not recyclable.
Say again?
How does China deal with battery waste? Because most of them are not recyclable.
Interesting question. We have discussed this issue with them. The way of thinking, as they tell us now, is that they have the battery swapping station, but when batteries are worn out, They will leave the battery swapping station into battery storage. There will be stationary battery storage. And later, they have to go for recycling, but that will take many years. But they are grasping the life cycle of batteries. So that is a key issue. Absolutely it is.
Hello. Can you please talk more about standardization of battery swapping technology? In which directions are companies and governments going for standardization?
Standardization is one of the key aspects of making innovation possible. Without standardization, innovation will not happen. We know that by experience. You can go to any area you want. You're quite young, but I think your mother and father have the video recorders, right?
Yeah.
Probably they have VHS. Yes, but before VHS became a standard, there were many different formats of video recorders. When industry agreed on one standard solution, that became boom of the video. The same goes in every area that we know. Standardization is key. Many people don't like it, but that is the key, because we cannot handle the variation. When it comes to battery swapping, the normal way of thinking, every car manufacturer have their own battery. They integrate it, which means inseparable. You can see the new Volkswagen solution, where the bottom part, the key part of the car is fully integrated vehicle and battery. No alternative. In this case, what they have come to an agreement is that they separate, they make modular design in which battery can be taken in and out. That is not easy, because that requires that connections, interconnectivity between vehicle and battery must be standardized, but also durable, which means many swapping over the 10, 20 years of operations that works, which means a lot of work on quality of connections. That's one thing. The other one is that the car designer must make one kind of design among different models of the car. This brand I'm showing, only one brand, Neo, all their cars are made for battery swapping. All. The same kind of battery swapping. Bike in Beijing, they have all their cars for battery swapping of the same kind. The problem is that different brands cannot agree to have one kind of system. That's the trouble. But there is a company called Alton, headquartered in Shanghai. They made a new kind of battery swapping station that can swap between 5 and 9 different brands. So they are unifying different standards and handling that, which means that their battery swapping station is bigger, have more storage for different variation of batteries. So this is one way to handle. This is a key issue, standardization. And that was one key problem between 2000 and 2020, before 2010, 2020, before they could agree on standardization. Because that means that automobile industry have to give up part of their control and their power. And instead, they are making joint businesses and sharing profits. So this is once again integration between technology and business to make it possible. But this is, sir, this is not a technical question, because that is the easy part. That is not a problem. The problem is trust. The problem is trustworthiness between different companies. The problem is how do we make money among different companies. The business aspect is the problem. The technical standardization is no issue. Easy. Once again, technology is the easy part. You're welcome.
Now we heard, yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for this great presentation. I'm Alexander from Faculty of Economics, PhD student in macroeconomics, and I have two questions. First one is technical, and the second one is about the trust and the all you talk about. The first question is how we're going to make the network of those stations for battery changing, battery swapping in the countries that have a lot of rural areas with a low economic development and a low infrastructure network of roads. That's the first question. And the second question is, what do you think about some exploring in Serbia in where we are? What our people think? Do you think we should explore that? Because it's very interesting tasks for a PhD student to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The first question I think I can answer. The second one is more complicated. I cannot answer that because that can be part of the future collaboration to explore that issue. When you see the electrification in Chinese context, they have a certain way of thinking. They go for the public transportation first. In Shenzhen, 12 million people, then you can understand how many thousands of cars they have. For every car there is a decision maker, which means if they have a couple of 100,000 cars, a couple of 100,000 decision makers, how can they convince them that electrification is good for them? Difficult, complicated. Every family need to make a decision on their own, independently. So for this reason, they go for what is possible to control, which means public transportation, buses, taxis. They go for that. They can control that. They can manage. They can find solutions for that, standardized solution. And they do that. Now, what is happening? Everybody can see that blue sky is there, air is clean, it's not noisy, it's not smelling bad. So now people can see by themselves that this is good for the quality of living. Now people say, yes, we go for electrical cars. Now the government say, we don't give you subsidy for hybrid anymore because we don't need hybrid. Now they give subsidy for the electrical, pure electrical, and they provide charging facility so that people can compare charging with filling the petrol. And now private people say, yeah, let's go for electric car. And they move. And this is the same going on in Shanghai and in Beijing the same. They go for public area first, they show by example, they demonstrate success, they show the blue air, and then people follow in this direction. That is how they are doing. That is how they do. How you can do here, I cannot tell. But I have reason to believe that it is much easier to go from the public success story to the general public story, rather than the other way around. This is one learning that we are doing. Was that the answer to your question? You're welcome.
So I've seen China export some of their electric vehicles to Serbia, and can you tell us a bit about that? In the cheaper area, like up to 5,000 and 10,000 euros.
No, I can't. I can't, because I don't know. I don't know what they're selling to Serbia. I have no ideas. I have not seen it. But I know that, generally speaking, from the Chinese context, you can buy cheap things and you can buy expensive things. You can buy things of high standard, high quality that is more expensive. In China, you have huge variation of needs from the rural area to the high-tech area. So they have higher variation of products offering to the consumers than we do in the West. We go now quite often for high-end, but in the Chinese context, there is higher variation. So what they do in Serbia, I have no ideas about. I have no information about it. Not even one brand. That is part of my lacking of understanding. I know that. But I'm sorry.
We have one question from YouTube. How much is the initial investment to build a single battery replacement station? How many cars is needed for one such station to be profitable?
That is a very good question. I should expect that question. I should have the answer to that question, and I don't. You can imagine that, as far as I know, the price of battery swapping station is depending on the technological solution, but I would think that the price is about a couple of €100,000 for one station. Then depending on how many batteries you have in the storage, if you have 10, 20, 30, 40 batteries, that will increase the price of the total station. Then the physical building, interconnections to the power and all other connections, that is influencing the price level. Every battery need to be charged for at least 1 hour. If you go for fast charging, we know that fast charging is not the best for battery, so the best is to have slow charging, which takes longer time. But to my understanding, every battery station can serve several thousand of cars. Because if one car need battery swapping once a week, then you can imagine if they have 30, 40 batteries on storage, that they can swap quite many cars every day. So I would say every battery station can serve several thousand of cars. But the question is very good, and actually what I will do when I go back is actually have a slide on exactly that question about volumes, speed, numbers, and the answer to that question.
Okay, and one more question. What future do you predict for the biggest car producers, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Audi? Will they go in the model for battery swapping?
That is an interesting question. I see two patterns. One is the fully integrated way, which we see today. The other one is battery swapping. I have reason to believe that battery swapping is what Chinese are going for. And I don't think that will be easily adopted by Western brands as a competition. However, we see that Geely, the Chinese brand Geely, is going for battery swapping. And Geely is the main owner of the Swedish brand Volvo. So I have reason to believe that when Geely go for battery swapping in China, that will have an impact on the car design of Volvo in Sweden in a few years' time. So I think that is a stream of action that we can see. But I have reason to believe that when it comes to trucks, heavy-duty vehicles, buses, I think that will more come to be more generic. And it's more easy to swap batteries in a bus and a truck compared to a car that is more fashionable, design, require another kind of technological solution. Buses can easily swap from the side, from the top or bottom. The truck's the same. So that's easier. Batteries are heavier, but the technological solution is easier. But I think that we are not going to see one solution or the other. We are going to see different patterns evolving over time. We need to remember that the whole development of electrification of cars is only in the beginning of the development. We are not even close to the maturity level. We are far away from that, which means that we are still lacking the dominant design solution. Now we see charging cable, we see battery swapping, but in the near time there could be other solutions coming, popping up. We don't know what will be the dominant solution yet. But one thing we see, hydrogen is evolving as one kind of technology that will be important in the future.
Thank you. And will the China be the future leader in automotive industry?
I would say they are today. They are today. They are doing that. And one explanation to that is where I started. They jump from the old technology to the new one. And we see emerging economies doing that. Mobile industry in Africa, they don't go through wires in the ground. They jump into mobile phone. They go for 4G, 5G. So in this respect, the emerging economies has this kind of competitive advantage to jump over and grasp the new technology. That is something that we see. And I think that what I see is China has taken the lead in the electrification already. But we must remember that the others are not doing it. To make it clear, we are hesitating. We think that we are best in the technology we have. We are waiting, but they are already jumping into it. So they are taking the lead already. Thank you.
So I think that this was the last good question and your answer, of course. And now, sada pozivam gospodina Veljka Radovanovića. direktora kompanije Logik, našeg dragog člana, da nam nešto više ispriča o drugoj strani priče, o primjeni menadžerskih znanja i veština u praksi i poslovanju. Veljko je svoje poprilično menadžersko iskustvo gradio još od 2003. godine, koliko mi znamo, možda nešto i ranije, svakodnevno se suočavajući sa takozvanim real life problemima koji se često izostavljaju u teoriji. Tako da, Veljko, to je mikrofon sada.
Hvala Aleksandra na najavi. Hvala profesoru Daniloviću na izvanrednom predavanju. Ja sam neke moje saznanja su se potvrdila, puno sam i naučio. Čak i na onom banalnom nivou, da kažem, mi se nekako trudimo da u Niškom naučno-tehnološkom parku prednjačimo u odnosu na lokalnu zajednicu, pa ne znam, koristimo olovke koje mogu da se recikliraju. Ja sam od Milana, direktora, tražio da nam obezbedi neki punjač za elektroautomobile, da bismo uopšte bili u prilici da kupimo neki električni automobil, ali evo sad znamo da nam zapravo treba i jedna stanica za zamenu baterija, tako da će to biti veći izazov za sam park, da nam to obezbedi da bismo mogli da uopšte primjenimo, da kažem, ta neka nova saznanja i nove tehnologije i počnemo da koristimo električne automobile. Meni je drago da kažem da imam priliku da posle vas govorim, a ja bih, da kažem, napravo uvodno nešto rekao o firmi i o sebi. Znači, od 2003. Logik se bavi razvojem softvera u Srbiji. Najpre smo, da kažem, bili, eto, kao što je ovo predavanje hibridno, i mi smo onako malo radili neki outsourcing da bismo usvojili neka nova znanja, ali kreirali smo i neki svoj proizvod. Prednjačili smo, da kažem, u tom, pošto su to sve bili mladi ljudi koji su, da kažem, sa našeg elektronskog fakulteta. Pravili smo, recimo, i prvi internet payment gateway u Srbiji, prve web prodavnice koje, znate, u Srbiji da su puštene sa plaćanjem preko interneta su praktično nastale u našoj proizvodnji. Neki sajtovi koji su, da kažem, najpopularniji danas, kao što je kupujem, prodajem, su zapravo nastali u Logiku. Međutim, recimo, ta svetska ekonomska kriza 2008. nas je, pošto smo dominantno radili za američko tržište, ubila i ceo taj web tim je praktično se raspao i okrenuli smo se onome što smo radili kao svoj proizvod, a to je bio razvoj poslovnog softvera, ERP, ili u to vreme, da kažem, ako sad svedemo komunikaciju, knjigovodstveni softver, znači kako to Srbija vidi. Tu zapravo sam se nadovezao na ono što je profesor pričao. Znači, kada profesor je započeo svoje predavanje time, jel tako, na početnom slajdu imali ste engleski i kineski. Znači, vi zapravo morate da znate sve vreme kome se ophodite i u stvari ko je sa one druge strane sa kim pričate. Znači, ako je sa druge strane Kinez, jel tako, prigodno je da to bude kineski. Ako je sa druge strane 2003. Neki prosečan biznismen u Srbiji kome želite da ponudite neki proizvod koji ste napravili, vi ne možete da kažete ERP, on ne zna šta je ERP, ne zna šta su poslovni procesi, nije video ništa od toga, nije upoznat sa novim tehnologijama, znači vi morate da mu kažete da vi prodajete softver za knjigovodstvo, a zapravo je to mnogo više od toga. 20 godina kasnije je to mnogo lakše, ali u tom smislu vam je jako bitno da osim tih svojih tehnoloških znanja koje imate, da kažem, da raspolažete nekim mekim veštinama, da komunikaciju prilagodite, da kažem, sagovorniku, jer nije isto da li vi sad s jedne strane pričate sa profesorom Danilovićem i hoćete da usvojite neka znanja od njega, ili pričate sa onim tamo lokalnim prodavcem povrća na pijaci, jel tako? Ako nemate adekvatnu komunikaciju, nećete naučiti ništa od profesora, a od onog lokalnog prodavca nećete dobiti ono povrće ispod tezge koje on čuva za neko ko ima odgovarajuću komunikaciju, nego će vam dati ono što je gore, onako našminkano, ali nije baš to kvaliteta. U tom smislu velika je razlika, i to je ono, da kažem, što je neka tema između neke vaše tehnološke ideje i biznis ideje. Znači, to su potpuno dve strane. Znači, s jedne strane imate tehnološku ideju, a da li je to biznis ideja, to je onaj put tamo. Znači, dugačak je put od tehnološke ideje do biznis ideje. I u tom smislu, ako ste, da kažem, pretpostavljam da su dominantno ljudi ovde neko ko je završio nešto od tehničkih nauka, to što imate neku, da kažem, tehnološku ideju, to ne znači da imate biznis ideju i da ćete uspeti u tome. Znači, u tom smislu morate tu svoju tehnološku ideju da kroz nekoliko krugova evaluacije uobličite u biznis ideju. Znači, morate prvo da spoznate šta je, koje je to vaše tržište, kome se vi obraćate, ko je taj vaš kupac. Morate da ga nacrtate na tabli, bukvalno kao čičaglišu. Znači da mu nacrtate majicu pa da znate da li je on tinejdžer ili on neki poslovan čovjek sa kravatom, je li tako? U odnosu na to morate da vidite šta su, da kažem, njegove potrebe, šta u stvari vi kao svoj proizvod nudite, da li mu rešavate neki problem ili nudite čisto proizvod koji je drugačiji od nekih drugih, pa u tom smislu je vaš proizvod bolji i pristupačniji za tog klijenta. I, da kažemo, te tehnološke ideje, nakon te neke analize, vi pravite neki plan, razvijate to, implementirate, da kažem, realizujete i sa tim iskustvom vraćate nazad i ponovo, da kažem, kao neki proces vrtite sve u krug. Jer ako se ne vraćate nazad i ne unapređujete svoj proizvod, vaš proizvod će pre ili kasnije, da kažem, pasti u zaborav ili više neće biti, da kažem, upotrebljiv za to tržište kome ste želi da ga namenite. U tom putu, naravno, bitna je neka finansijska konstrukcija koju ćete napraviti, da kažem, da biste stvorili tu, da biste uopšte došli u priliku da realizujete biznis ideju. I jako bitna stvar je ta održivost. I u tom smislu, recimo, eto, mi smo imali to iskustvo sa outsourcingom, jel tako, to je mnogo lepo, jel tako, neki stranac plaća neki novac za neki, vi razvijate neki proizvod, nemate neku veliku odgovornost, on plaća taj vaš rad i to deluje lepo, privremeno, jel tako. Dugoročno to nije održivo. Ili će, da kažem, vaš rad poskupiti pa će on naći nekog jeftinijeg na zemaljskoj kugli, ili će, da kažem, vaše potrebe biti veće, pa u tom smislu on više neće biti adekvatan kupac, ili će se desiti nešto, kao što je bila svetska ekonomska kriza 2008. Kao što je, recimo, sad korona, ili neki drugi, da kažem, događaj koji, gde jednostavno taj vaš odnos, kad vi nemate proizvod, nego se samo oslanjate na neku jednokratnu uslugu, to prestaje da bude održivo. Tako da, u tom smislu, kad od neke svoje tehnološke ideje želite napravite biznis ideju, morate razmišljati ne samo o tome kako da napravite prvi taj prototip i kako da obezbedite prvog kupca ili prvih 10 kupaca, nego šta će biti kad imate 100 kupaca, šta će biti kad imate 1000 kupaca. Jel tako? I u tom smislu, ako pravite tu razliku, onda imate veće sam šanse da uspete u tome. Ja, da kažem, u tom ne bih, da kažem, nešto duže o tom, otvoren sam, inače, da kažem, i u zajednici prepoznat po tome da želim da podelim svoje iskustvo i da savjetujem neke mlađe na primjerima lošim koje sam sam iskusio ili na dobrim kojem sam čuo ili opet sam iskusio. Citirao bi samo Bill Gatesa koji je jednom prilikom rekao da je uspeh loš učitelj. Znači on zavede pametne ljude da pomisle da ne mogu da izgube. Tako da u tom smislu šta god da ste nešto radili i šta god da mislite da možete, uvijek se zapitajte ako uspete šta onda, ako ne uspete šta onda i naravno niko nije osuđen na uspeh u tom smislu, nije strašno pogrešiti, ne uspeti, bitno je naučiti lekcije iz toga, okrenuti se, ustati i ponovo da kažem pokušati da ostvarite tu svoju ideju. Kao što ste videli u profesorovoj analizi kako to sad izgleda u brojkama na realno, da kažem u realnom životu, nemojte da se zavaravate time da postoji sreća u biznisu. Znači, ako bi ja sad vama želeo da poželim da uspete, ne bi vam rekao srećno, rekao bi vam samo pametno i vredno. Znači, uspeli su oni koji su dobro razmislili, uradili, da kažem, najpametnije što su mogli i bili vredni u tome da izguraju tu svoju ideju. Toliko od mene, pošto je hibridno predavanje, malo engleski, malo srpski, malo sa projektorom, malo ovako, da kažem, uživo. Ako imate nekih pitanja, ja sam otvoren.
Dobili smo jedno pitanje, da li imate programe za podršku studentima?
Ne znam tačno na kakvu se podršku studentima misli, ali mi recimo stalno imamo prakse u različitim segmentima i u različitim timovima u firmi i u i u tom smislu, da kažem, to je jedan način da neko osjeti kako izgleda život u realnom biznisu i kako izgleda rad, da kažem, u realnim timovima. A sa druge strane, kao što sam ja rekao, znači ja sam inače otvoren da sa bilo kim, kogod, da kažem, ima potrebu da me nešto pita ili da nešto podeli sa mnom, da dam neki svoj savjet iz svog ugla. Tako da ako je u tom smislu neki vid podrške, to uvek, a i da kažem, ako postoji neka dobra ideja, nekad smo, da kažem, radi da pomognemo i u realizaciji te ideje.
A sada? Da. Da li pored knjigovodstvenog programa radite na još nekim projektima?
Ja sam naveo kao banalan primjer, da kažem, da kada komuniciramo sa srpskim tržištem, naročito ranije, je to bilo da radimo software za knjigovodstvo, ali suštinski mi ne radimo software za knjigovodstvo. Znači, najmanji broj klijenata koristi taj software za knjigovodstvo. Projekti na kojima radimo su prilično, da kažem, šareni. Uglavnom se tiču neke podrške industriji, odnosno privredi, i u tom smislu to može da bude od nekih, da kažem, automatizacija proizvodnje do nekih optimizacija ili čak, da kažem, recimo neke primene veštačke inteligencije, odnosno sistema koji sami uče u smislu neke dalje optimizacije proizvodnje. I bukvalno sada da krenete, da kažem, ono što iz nekih vaših saznanja, u Nišu i okolini nema fabrike sa kojom ne radimo. Tako, a sad da pitate, recimo, Nišlije šta radi logiku, oni vam rekli software za kafiće. Jer tu nas vide na ekranu, pa onda misle da se radi. Ali suštinski, da kažem, radimo, znači, baš i poslovni software, znači sve ono što jeste biznis i što je potreba da se na softverskoj strani reši, tu smo mi partneri. Tu smo partneri korporacijama, da kažem, i nekim lokalnim firmama, u smislu lokalnih fabrika, dobavljača, trgovina, već čega god.
Pitanje je da li radite samo na teritoriji Srbije i da li planirate da se proširite na neka druga tržišta?
Pa generalno sada trenutno, da kažem, radimo uglavnom na teritoriji Srbije, ali je sa nekom težnjom da se proširimo regionalno. Konkretno, recimo, imamo od prošle godine firmu u Crnoj Gori, u planu je da otvorimo firmu u Bosni i, da kažem, po celom regionu. Suština jeste da ta, pošto mi radimo software za male i srednje preduzeća, da kažem, priča, ako smo napravili neki biznis model koji je uspešan, da onda to u principu možemo da proširimo i regionalno, verovatno, da kažem, i worldwide, u smislu, ako imamo dobre uspešne priče u regionu, onda nema, da kažem, prepreka da otvorimo poslovnicu i u Berlinu i u Vašingtonu. Mislim, nema nikakve razlike.
Glavno pitanja koja su vezana za vašu kompaniju, svakako ćemo organizovati događaj Meet Our Members na kome predstavljamo naše članove Naučno-tehnološkog parka. A evo jedno pitanje, koji biste savjet dali jednom studentu 3. godine ekonomskog fakulteta, koji savjet studentu elektronskog fakulteta? Da li možete neku knjigu da preporučite mladim ljudima koji bi želeli da se bave preduzetništvom? Vaša preporuka, verovatno.
Pa što se tiče studenta elektronskog fakulteta, pošto sam ja završio elektronski fakultet, u principu osim tehnološkog znanja jako je bitno da pokušate da savladate što više nekih veština ili znanja iz nekih drugih oblasti, a koje su okrenute ka biznisu. Znači, to je nešto što je uopštena zamerka tu, da kažem, i profesor Danilović praktično ima ceo taj smer koji je okrenut ka tome. Znači, to što imamo tehnološka znanja ne znači da ćemo biti potpuno uspešni u tome. Znači, treba nam ta specijalizacija, moramo da imamo to znanje, jer to je ono što nas razlikuje od drugih, ali nam je jako bitno da imamo i malo tu širu sliku da bismo mogli ta znanja da primenimo. Znači, nije sad nije IT ili elektronika ključ problema, nego primenjeni IT, odnosno primenjena elektronika u stvari daje novu vrednost koja je mnogo veća. A što se tiče studenta ekonomije, ja bih savjetovao da upišu neki master na tehničkim studijima, pa da nam se malo približe, da onda zajedno radimo nešto što će doneti novu vrednost i što će biti, da kažem, što će učiniti razliku većom i stvoriti neki proizvod koji će biti, da li je sad namenjen lokalnoj zajednici ili je, da kažem, nešto se može prodavati na svetskom nivou, ali kad imate, da kažem, dobru biznis ideju, onda je ceo svet vaš. Sad je svet globalno selo i u tom smislu, ako možete da prodate nešto ovde, vrlo verovatno možete da to realizujete i prodate i na nekom drugom mestu sveta. Što se tiče preporuki za knjigu, u principu su to, pošto sam ja elektronac, pa onda ne bi savjetovao stručne knjige. Ovo njih i onako, da kažem, po inerciji čitamo. Recimo, neka bude siromašan otac, u principu te knjige koje se tiču nekih veština komunikacije i uopšte, da kažem, nekih stvari koje se tiču započinjenja i održavanja biznisa jesu nešto što je onako može da bude zgodno štivo za dopunu tog znanja, jer ne možete vi sad završili ste, da kažem, neki od tehnoloških fakulteta pa dojete da studirate ekonomiju da biste savladali i to. Tako nego mora nekim alternativnim metodama da dolazite do tog znanja.
Sada nismo dobili. Da, knjiga je Bogati otac, siromašni otac, Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lechter, tako da eto imate preporuku za tu knjigu, a i pretpostavljam da svi studenti trenutno prepoznaju koje su potrebe tržišta, a i da naši fakulteti, što se kaže Bože zdravlje, prilagođavaju studijske programe upravo tim trendovima koji nas okružuju i koji će tek da nas očekuju.
I da kažem još jedan savjet sa moje strane, ja verujem da na fakultetima, da kažem da se fakulteti prilagođavaju i da su ti programi sve bolji, ali nikad nemojte da očekujete da će neko da vam da svo znanje koje vam je potrebno. Tako, znači morate da krenete od sebe i da ono što želite da učite i radite, to radite paralelno sa studiranjem. Znači ne počinje život time što ste završili studije pa kao sad ću nešto da učim i da radim, nego dok studirate, nikad nećete imati više vremena nego sada dok studirate. Tako da dok studirate praktično oblikujte neki svoj profesionalni put posle studija. Ja sam inače otvorio firmu kad sam dao poslednji ispit na fakultetu, praktično između diplomiranja i poslednjeg ispita, ali ne tako što smo kao dao poslednji ispit pa smo sad seli da nešto radimo, nego smo se već 2 ili 3 godine pripremali za to sa kolegama sa fakulteta sa kojima sam otvorio firmu. Tako da u tom smislu nemojte da čekate, nego to što učite je samo podloga za ono što stvarno treba da naučite.
Hvala ti, Veljko. Slažem se da su ovakva... Imate pitanja? Aha, izvini, nisam videla. Isprva?
Pre svega, dobar dan. Hvala na predavanju. Ja imam samo jedno pitanje. S obzirom da ste spomenuli da ste kao na kraju svojih studija otvorili firmu i kako celo predavanje, odnosno predavanje i profesora Danilovića i vas jeste da od same te, od toga što smislimo, od same ideje, dug je put do inovacije. Mene interesuje kako izgleda taj put, zato što dosta govorimo o tome da imamo ideju i da stvorimo poslovni model, ali me interesuje koje su to vještine, koje su to znanja i sposobnosti i koji su to procesi najbitniji da bismo mi uspeli u tome.
Hvala na pitanju. Mislim da je to ono ključno pitanje.
Ajde, samo bi ja da kažem malo tu začinio u smislu ideja, nešto što se praktično javlja iz, ajde da kažemo, vašeg srca. Da biste tu ideju uobličili, da bi se to približilo nekom stvarnom proizvodu, to se najčešće radi iz te strasti, znači iz neke vere u tu ideju. Jel tako? I sad to uopšte nije bitno, uopšte da li je to vezano za IT ili je, ne znam, lokalni pekar koji je otvorio pekaru. Znači, svi biznisi uspješni koje ja znam, ali da kažem, radimo recimo sa preko 3000 pravnih lica u Srbiji, znači puno znam uspješnih biznisa sa kojima radimo. Svi su na neki način nastali iz neke strasti. Znači sad, da li taj čovjek voli pecivo pa je lokalni pekar, jel tako, ili je neki IT-evac pa je napravio neku svoju IT firmu, ali znači on imao neku svoju ideju koja je nastala iz srca i strast je razvio taj, da kažem, svoj biznis i nadalje sve ide glavom. Posle više nema ni srca ni strasti, znači posle je bitno samo, da kažem, prevođenje te ideje u nešto što je, ne znam, biznis plan, finansijska konstrukcija i sve ono što sad više liči na neku ekonomiju nego na da kažem, neki razvoj. To ne znači da kažemo mi smo sad napravili nešto i nećemo više da se bavimo razvojem, zato što sam već rekao da non stop moramo da se bavimo kao neki začarani krug, ali je, da kažem, to je neki put. Ono što je glavna osobina koju morate da imate da biste uspeli jeste posvećenost. I od veština sad sve zavisi od tog biznisa koje da kažem, kome radite. Mi smo recimo okrenuti tome da te svoje proizvode prodajemo nekim firmama, ali tako nama je bitno jako da imamo dobru komunikaciju, da imamo neke prodajne veštine i da kažem u tom smislu non stop imamo neke kurseve i u firmi i interno i eksterno kako bismo bili bolji u tome, ali tako, znači jer takvu vrstu znanja i veština niko od nas nije stekao na fakultetu, niti smo imali predmet, niti smo imali bilo kakvu vrstu neke obuke ili tako nešto. A u principu to vam inače treba u svakodnevnom životu. Zato ti kažem, ta komunikacija kad recimo sa jedne strane svi problemi nastaju iz komunikacije, ako imate dobru komunikaciju onda puno stvari možete da rešite komunikaciju. Pa čak i to, kao što sam rekao, da dobijete od onog prodavca na pijaći ono povrće koje čuli ispod testu. I to nema veze sa IT-em, to su onda posle veštine koje vam znači za nešto drugo. Ali posvećenost i rekao bi mukotrpan možda rad jeste ono što pravi razliku u prvih par godina. Isto ne znam da nekog da je uspeo, da nije puno radio. Ne pričam naravno o nasleđenim firmama, pričamo o stvorenim firmama od nula.
Ovo je primjer zapravo koliko je posle teorije stvarno potrebna praksa da bi to preduzetništvo profunkcionisalo. Tako da imali ste na početku prilike da čujete jedno manje više teorijsko predavanje, ali kako to zvuči na ovom jednom univerzitetu u Švedskoj. S druge strane imali ste prilike da čujete i Veljka koji nam je ispričao nešto o tom primenjenijom delu. Tako da najlepše se zahvaljujem našim predavačima. Thank you all. Thank you very much for your inspiring lectures. Posebno hvala svima koji su pratili ovo preko našeg YouTube kanala. Nadamo se da smo se u najvećem delu čuli, možda u ovom delu kada smo imali battery swapping nismo, ali mislim da je sasvim ok. I našim dragim gostima koji su nam danas pravili društvo u konferencijskom centru. Pozivam vas da ispratite i događaje koji nas očekuju u maju, a do tada želim vam da lepo provedete ove predstojeće uskršnje i prvomajske praznike, pa se vidimo nakon istih. Hvala vam puno još jednom i vidimo se.